Schopenhauer warned, most love is just psychological slavery. Love is a trap of nature cunningly woven to ensure the continuation of the species. Arthur Schopenhauer. You call it love. She calls it connection. But it is neither. It is biology in disguise. It is your instincts stolen, manipulated, redirected. It is not a bond. It is a leash. You walk toward her, not because she is sacred, but because her scent carries the illusion of completion. You feel drawn, pulled, moved. You mistake that gravity for meaning. But Schopenhauer saw through it. He saw that beneath every kiss is compulsion. Beneath every embrace, the scream of nature's will, the blind, mindless urge to perpetuate itself. You do not fall in love. You fall into submission. She does not awaken your soul. She awakens your programming. And that programming is precise serve. Pursue, provide, beg. You are not being chosen. You are being used. As a function, as a resource, as a mirror. And she does not know this consciously. She doesn't have to. It is instinct. She smiles, and your logic melts. She turns away, and your spine bends. She shows need, and you destroy your boundaries to fill it. This is not romance. This is psychological slavery. The chain is forged in silence, in glances, in reward withheld and then returned. You think she is the key, but she is the lock, and you shape yourself to fit it. Schopenhauer didn't comfort you. He warned you. He did not tell you to love better. He told you to see through the veil, to see that what binds you is not care but compulsion, not intimacy but entrapment, not unity but utility, and you call it love. You think it's yours. You think the flutter in your chest, the ache in your gut, the rush in your blood belongs to you. It doesn't. It belongs to nature, to biology, to the faceless, indifferent force that moves you like a puppet toward her skin. You don't choose her. You're pulled by scent, by symmetry, by softness, by absence. She doesn't earn your devotion. She triggers it. You are not choosing. You are obeying. Obeying the will of life, blind, repetitive, insatiable. Schopenhauer named it, will not the noble will of philosophy, but the dark one. The will is the strongest and most blind of all forces. This is not love. This is biological hypnosis. You're not drawn to her soul. You're ensnared by her structure, by her hips, her voice, her fragility, by her reproductive cues embedded in the body your ancestors used to chase survival. You confuse function with fate. You dress up the pull in poetry. You call her your other half, but she is only the bait. The system doesn't want you happy. It wants you tethered. It doesn't want freedom. It wants replication. And the bait works best when it feels sacred. So it uses her, not maliciously, mechanically. Her warmth becomes your gravity. Her pleasure becomes your mission. Her eyes become your compass. And you forget yourself. You give, you prove, you wait, not for connection, for release, from the ache, from the need. And you call it love. But Schopenhauer stripped the veil. Love that is the sexual instinct is the most complete illusion that nature has devised. You are not in love. You are possessed by a force older than thought, older than reason, and she is its emissary. You say you want her heart, but it's not the heart you chase. It's the chemical, the pattern, the collapse. You offer your future. She takes it in silence, because her instinct only asks one thing. Can you be bent to serve what she doesn't even name? And you bend, with joy, because love, as you were taught, is surrender, and you have been taught nothing else. She does not enter your life to offer. She enters to shape. You think she wants to be held, but what she wants is influence, not your embrace, your adjustment, not your presence, your permission to rearrange it. She smiles, you soften. She sighs, you recalculate. She grows cold, you melt. This is not love. This is obedience with a romantic soundtrack. She does not love who you are. She loves what you become under her touch. She watches your stance erode. She feels your edges dull. She senses the shift and smiles, not out of cruelty, out of confirmation. You have entered the program. You now live in response to her. Schopenhauer did not romanticize the feminine. Women are directly fitted for acting as the nurses and educators of our early childhood by the fact that they are themselves childish, frivolous, and short-sighted. She does not lead. She molds. She adapts her tone to elicit your compliance. She withholds herself to inflate your effort. She affirms your submission and brands it connection. She doesn't need to dominate. She only needs to reward your loss of form. The less you are, the closer she comes. The more you yield, the warmer she becomes. Her approval is not affection, it's calibration. You learn quickly that truth makes her cold. That direction makes her tense. That stillness makes her suspicious. So you move. You adjust. You bend until she feels comfortable in the shape she's made of you, and she calls it love. But this is not mutuality. It is management. Her presence is not partnership. It is a system of behavioral nudges. And you, the creature, respond accordingly. She does not need understanding. She needs alignment. She will never say it. She doesn't have to. Her instincts speak in silence, conform, or be starved, comply, or be alone. You call it a relationship. It's a slow demolition, one smile at a time, one sigh at a time, one moment of quiet tension until your entire being reshapes to keep her close. And when it's done, she steps back and says, "You've changed. You have. You are now a reflection, not a man." And still you thank her. She doesn't desire you. She desires what you can be made to give, what you can be made to do, what you can be made to sacrifice. Her hunger is not for your essence. It is for access to your strength, to your time, to your protection, to your gaze. You mistake her presence for interest. But interest is not intimacy. It is strategy. She studies you not to understand you, but to map your weaknesses, to identify your softness, to find what you will trade for her affection. And how easily you hand it over. With a smile, with an apology, with a trembling sense of achievement. You call it love. It is transaction. You call it intimacy. It is extraction. Schopenhauer saw it with a blade. Marrying means to have one's rights and double one's duties. This is not a metaphor. It is a law. She doesn't need to ask. She doesn't need to threaten. She simply lets you know subtly that her warmth is conditional. Her body, her attention, her softness. These are not gifts. They are tools. Tools that train. Tools that bind. Tools that extract. You become the man who anticipates, who fixes, who provides without being asked. Not because she demands it, but because you fear losing her reaction. She doesn't want your soul. She wants your surrender, your sacrifice, your slow disintegration shaped to fit her unspoken needs. She desires only what feeds her sense of control. And you volunteer. She tests you with absence. You prove yourself with presence. She wounds you with silence. You bleed for clarity. She watches you crawl, then decides whether you've earned a touch. She never had to raise her voice. She never had to name her desires. She just had to wait, and you come undone. Because you still think she wants you, but what she wants is what you abandon to have her. She is not the destination. She is the exchange point where men trade freedom for affection and call it purpose. She uses your hunger. She rewards your obedience. She accepts your sacrifice and leaves you hollow, not with malice, with instinct. Because nature has no conscience, only mechanisms, and you are one of them. She gives nothing freely, not her gaze, not her laughter, not her body. Everything is a signal. Everything is a transaction. She does not speak to connect. She speaks to calibrate. She does not touch to give. She touches to mark. You believe she's emotional. She is economic. Calculating in softness, precise in timing, rewarding when you yield, withdrawing when you stand still. You are not in a relationship. You are inside a market. And her currency is attention. She pays you in drops. a look, a smile, a whisper, then disappears to see how much hunger she can grow in the silence. Schopenhauer saw the machinery women are the embodiment of cunning, not malicious, adaptive. She doesn't need dominance. She has control by scarcity. She creates lack. You respond with devotion. The less she gives, the more you chase. The more she withholds, the more you perform. She lets you talk, then watches how quickly you apologize for your truth. She lets you act, then observes how deeply you regret displeasing her. This is not love. This is training. You don't notice, because you've been taught that sacrifice is noble, that adjusting yourself for her comfort is maturity, that earning her affection is masculinity. But none of it is yours. Not your timing, not your words, not your center. She controls the rhythm, and your life becomes a response. You say you're in love, you are independence. Every gesture you make is a bid. Every word a negotiation. Every silence a test. You wait for her smile like a dog waits for a bell. And when it comes, you wag your soul in gratitude. She has taught you well. You no longer need the leash. You leash yourself, because her affection has become your mirror. Without it, you vanish. This is not a woman. It is a system, and you serve it willingly, not because it gives you life, but because it withholds just enough to keep you alive. You call that love. Schopenhauer called it illusion. You call it devotion. He called it enslavement, and you chose it because you were never taught to exist without it. She doesn't ask for pain, but she measures it. She watches how much you bleed, how fast you bend, how long you wait in silence after she turns away. She doesn't need gifts. She needs proof, not flowers, not vows, but suffering. Your suffering, pain is your offering. Self-betrayal, your currency. Every inch you surrender, she counts. Not with awareness, with instinct. And you give, because you've been taught that pain proves love. That the more it hurts, the more it means. That sacrifice deepens connection, but there is no connection, only contract. You hurt, she stays. You hurt more, she smiles. You stop hurting, she vanishes, because her affection feeds on evidence, not of who you are, but of what you'll give up to keep her. Schopenhauer knew the trap. To marry means to grasp, blindfolded, into a sack full of snakes in the hope of drawing out an eel. And the eel is suffering, polished, justified, romanticized, but still suffering. You no longer draw boundaries. You redraw yourself. You silence disagreement before it forms. You apologize before you're accused. Not for peace, for proof. Proof that she matters. Proof that she controls. She watches the change. You think she's impressed? She's confirming that you are pliable. That the man inside you has been dismantled by her gravity. She doesn't want your power. She wants to be the reason you gave it up. Not for evil, for affirmation. She needs to feel what nature promised her, that a man would die to stay in her warmth. That pain is his declaration. That devotion is proven through erosion. And you comply, softly, silently, repeatedly. You think this is maturity. It's erasure. You are not growing. You are dissolving. And she is watching, measuring how far you'll fall before you notice you're gone. You call it loyalty. But loyalty that requires your silence is slavery. She does not break you. She waits. And every time you fracture to preserve her closeness, she calls it love. You suffer. She stays. And that's the deal. You do not argue. You do not plead. You do not explain. You stop moving. She reaches your breath, does not change. She withdraws, your spine does not bend. She stares. Your gaze remains unbroken. You no longer orbit her mood, not because you've won, because you've left. Not her body, not her presence, but her system. You no longer respond to the rationing, no longer react to the frown, the silence, the disappearing smile. You do not decode. You do not flinch. You are not bitter. You are not cold. You are absent from the cage. You don't fix her. You sever the loop where your worth was weighed in reactions, where your identity was mirrored in her approval, where your silence was purchased by the promise of warmth. It ends, not in noise, not in fire, but in stillness. Schopenhauer gave you the lens. A man can do what he wants, but not want what he wants. And now you stop wanting, not desire, but approval, acceptance, permission. She no longer programs you. She speaks and you hear, but you do not shift. She touches and you feel, but you do not lean in. She cries and you remain, because her pain is no longer your leash, because her pleasure is no longer your mission. You do not hate her, you simply do not serve. Your pulse does not rise with her distance. Your soul does not negotiate to remain loved. Your mind no longer calculates what version of yourself will be tolerated today. You are no longer a project. You are no longer a pet. You are no longer a slave. You are still unmoved, unbent, unnecessary. And in that unnecessary being, you are free. She cannot mold you. She cannot read you. She cannot find her reflection in you, because you vanished from the theater. The play continues, but your seat is empty. You are not healed. You are withdrawn. Not from her, but from the pattern. No more hunger. No more proof. No more becoming. You are, and she cannot touch that. She will keep smiling, keep vanishing, keep offering partial warmth in exchange for full obedience. She will still sigh when you speak too directly, still withdraw when you refuse to bend, still reward you with softness when you lower your voice, when you edit your edge, when you betray yourself politely. But you do not move, not because you resist. Resistance still centers her. You simply do not respond. You no longer seek her approval because you no longer seek yourself in her mirror. The mirror has shattered. You do not need her reaction to prove that you exist. You do not need her gaze to authorize your presence. You do not need her body to validate your direction. She reaches, your center holds. She tests, your boundaries remain. She retreats, your vision continues. Schopenhauer saw it clearly. To desire immortality is to desire the perpetuation of a great mistake. And what greater mistake than to call slavery love, to call absence mystery, to call conditioning connection. You have ceased the desire. You have stepped outside the loop. You do not escape it by fighting her. You dissolve it by starving it. No more reaction, no more pursuit, no more craving. She cannot read you because there is no signal. She cannot move you because there is no lever. She cannot own you because there is no hunger. Love is no longer necessary, because love as sold to you was programming, and you are no longer programmable. You are not healed. You are not improved. You are not waiting for the right one. You are unreachable because you no longer offer access, because you no longer offer shape, because you no longer offer sacrifice. You are not an option. You are not a choice. You are not the better man. You are the unmoved axis, the man who walked away from the altar of affection without turning back, not to punish, not to teach, but to become what she cannot touch. You are not in rebellion. You are in sovereignty, and sovereignty does not love. It stands, final, immobile, alone, whole.